What is poppin' fantasy people? It is your boy John with the catch excited as ever to bring you guys another mock draft. I'm rolling with a 14-man league today. Really need to start to get more practice with some of these deeper leagues under my belt. We're picking from the third overall selection, and I'm going to once again attempt to do a super stack offense strategy. And today I'm actually going to be targeting the Tennessee Titans. I think it's very possible, with the third or fourth overall, maybe fifth overall pick, to get a Derrick Henry. So obviously you need the first, for the correct pick in the first round to be able to do this strategy with Derrick Henry going so high in drafts. And then I think it's very feasible to target that of an A.J. Brown, and if not, a Julio Jones in the third or fourth round. And I think Ryan Tannehill, one of the easiest quarterbacks to target this year, one of the most underrated fantasy quarterbacks this year. So I think this is going to be a really fun mock draft to conduct and a really fun strategy to also conduct. So if at any point you are finding this video enjoyable, helpful, and or entertaining in any way whatsoever, please go ahead and smash that like button as it really, truly does help out the channel overall. And please consider subscribing for more future content like this, as well as our annual The Catch podcast, amongst a lot more fantasy content to come out. And drop a comment down below on what you think of this draft overall, as well as we see, no surprise, Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook with the first two overall selections. Ezekiel Elliott now bumped to the third overall running back on Yahoo Fantasy's projections, but we are rolling with Derrick Henry, someone who had over 2,000 rushing yards last year, 17 rushing touchdowns, only 114 receiving yards, but we know that he makes up for that with his rushing yards overall, as we now see Alvin Kamara and Nick Chubb, the next two running backs off the board, and whoever is selecting number 6 overall getting a big steal with Ezekiel Elliott. So we will go ahead and start to look at some of these receivers. We know that A.J. Brown is ranked 41 overall on Yahoo Fantasy. So we will go ahead and see that he is definitely a viable target for us. It's just kind of the question of, do we need to reach or not for him? Or the other question would be, do we truly want A.J. Brown, or do we want to wait a little bit longer for that of Julio Jones? So we will see kind of how the rest of this draft unfolds, as we now have Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, and Austin Eckler all off the board. I think the Chargers are another team that I definitely want to do the same sort of strategy with relatively soon to see how that plays out. I think it's definitely feasible to get Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Justin Herbert on the same team, as we see Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Stephon Diggs, and Jonathan Taylor all off the board. So let me know. There are a couple teams that I want to keep doing this strategy with. Definitely the Chargers, as well as the Seahawks. I might play around with the Green Bay Packers, but you have to get very fortunate to see Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams fall to you within the first and the second round. You probably have to be picking the last overall pick in the first round and the first overall pick in the second round. So, pick 10 overall, pick 12 overall, depends on how many men or how many teams are playing within your league. As we see A.J. Brown off the board with the 16th overall selection. I think I was referring to these ranks incorrectly. So we really need to be looking at the X rank. So Julio Jones would be 47th overall. So we'll scroll down here. I think we're going to have to reach a bit for Julio unless we see a big run on quarterbacks or not. So that would probably be the riskiest, part of this particular strategy with the Tennessee Titans overall, because I think there's going to be a lot of a lot of talent before our selection there in the fourth round, which doesn't come till pick 54. But I can also see Julio sliding out of there. So this is a little risky, right? It's definitely difficult, but we'll see what we come up with. And either way, I definitely think that we can stack both Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry together. So we have now seen Antonio Gibson, AJ Brown, like I said, D Hop, Najee Harris, Calvin Ridley, Joe Mixon, Justin Jefferson, and DK Metcalf all off the board. Let me know if you guys watched that Eagles Steelers preseason game. I know we need to take it with a grain of salt with it being a preseason game, but Najee Harris looked filthy out there, man. Definitely looked to be a solid RB1 in his rookie year. Super excited to see what he does this year. I think he is going to have a fantastic freaking year, man, as we now see Clyde Edwards-Helaire off the board as well, and followed by David Montgomery with the 24th overall pick, and then Darren Waller. So we know that we are going to be targeting Julio a little bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get a sure number one receiver to kind of help out that of Julio Jones. I'm going to roll with Keenan Allen here, although I think Terry McLaurin as well as Allen Robinson would have been great selections as well. So now the heat is kind of starting to rise, because if I wait for Julio, it's going to cause a lot of panic. But I just think there's too much talent on the board for me to reach for Julio, and I definitely think that I need to snag another running back, and that would probably be that of Chris Carson. He just got selected. My next target, now that Chris Carson is gone, is definitely going to be my guy, Josh Jacobs, someone that I want on my roster, someone that I'm not scared to draft whatsoever. I don't consider that a reach. Depending on what site you do these mock drafts through, you might see Josh Jacobs a little bit higher, depending on where you get your overall rankings from. Don't be surprised if you see Josh Jacobs a lot higher than where Yahoo has him listed. Okay, so we did opt out of selecting Julio a little bit early there. So now we're just going to kind of sit here and let the temperature rise, so to speak. We did see Patty Mahomes go right before my selection of Josh Jacobs, and now we're seeing a further run on receivers as well as one running back in that of J.K. Dobbins and Chris Carson before my selection, and now CeeDee Lamb. So we do have a bit of a skill position run going, and Julio is just kind of sitting there. We're kind of hoping that a large run on tight ends and or quarterbacks goes. So we'll see what happens. And if we miss out on Julio, then essentially this strategy was, completely dirt. But it's okay. We do know that we're going to get 2 Tennessee Titans players. And then if anything, we know that in a 14-man league from the 3rd overall selection, it might be difficult to conduct this strategy, at least in terms of aiming for the Tennessee Titans. So certainly more of these videos to come. I have done one on the Chiefs in an 8-man league, and I also recently did one with Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. So let me know if you guys are liking these strategies, or if you think they're a waste of time or not. Let me know in the comments down below while you're down there smashing that like button and subbing for more future content like this. As the heat is truly rising, we have 10 more picks until we select, and I do not think that Julio is going to fall to us. It's a shame, but like I said, it is definitely good experience. Now keep in mind, we did go out and get Keenan Allen, but we kind of sat back at the receiver position in order to go out and get a Julio Jones. So, there are about 7 picks out from where he is ranked and where we are selecting. So it's possible, but as this draft keeps going, it's looking unlikely. So we do know that we are going to be targeting a quarterback in a little bit of the later rounds. So at this point in time, it's probably, if Julio does not fall to us, probably best that we go out and we evaluate the running back position. So I do like Mike Davis here, who we know is probably going to be the number 1, but Ronald Jones is sitting there as well, and someone that we know that we can get in probably a little bit of a later round, as Julio is now the 3rd ranked player overall and now the 2nd ranked player overall. So things are just looking worse and worse. But cross our fingers, guys. We might see a little run on quarterbacks as Lamar Jackson was just taken. We might see some tight ends go as Mark Andrews was just taken. And now that running back position is relatively thin, and Mike Davis is taken off the board. So I am sitting here in anticipation we might get Julio Jones 2 picks until our turn. Let's see, guys. If anything, you can laugh at me for failing at this strategy overall, but let's see. There goes Julio. What a bummer with Kareem Hunt now off the board. So I am looking at, we have 2 very, very good quarterbacks here. We've got a great tight end in that of TJ Hawkinson, but I still think that I need to take the best talent available at the most needed position, and that's going to be Adam Thielen. What a bummer, man. We are so close to locking up Derrick Henry with Julio Jones and then potentially Ryan Tannehill, who I think we'll still be able to target, but who knows? We may not be able to get him with how this has been going thus far. So, in these 14-man leagues, I am, I don't want to say opposed to drafting a quarterback or tight end early, but I certainly think there's enough depth at each position that at this point in the draft, you need to just be taking the best receivers and running backs available. So, man, I am still bummed that we were just 2 picks away from snagging Julio. Oh man, that would have been just awesome if he fell to us there. But hey, that's what these mock drafts are for. So I will say it time and time again. Put yourself in a position that you're not entirely sure of how it's going to play out, and try these different strategies and see if they work and and from what positions they don't work as well as what positions they do work. So that is why we are here at the Catch to conduct these mock drafts so that you guys don't have to and you can laugh at me when I fail miserably. But I think we can still make a very good overall roster here. We still have a couple very good quarterbacks that I'm very tempted to take, although I just talked about not selecting a quarterback or tight end early, as now we see Dak Prescott off the board. But we still have Kyle Pitts and Kyler Murray here, 2 positions I just talked about not reaching for. So let's go ahead and let's see who's available from the running back position. I do like that of a James Robinson and a Ronald Jones and Damian Harris here, but I'm just a little flaky. Oh, now as we see James Robinson off the board, I'm a little flaky on that New England offense. At least from a running standpoint, right? I'm a little worried, but I'm going to roll with Damian Harris because we at least know he's going to be the RB1 overall. I do think that if our guy, Mac and Cheese, Big Mac Jones, baby, gets the start in New England for most of the season, I do think that Damian Harris, I think that it'll definitely help him. Right. I think that if Cam Newton is the starter there, and I think he very well could be for at least the beginning of this season, I think that's going to hurt Damian Harris. But nonetheless, I think he is worth a selection and at least someone to keep on your bench to kind of evaluate how the season plays out there in New England. But we know that Cam Newton had 12 rushing touchdowns last year, that he will eat a little bit into the stock of any running game, any running backs on that roster. But I do believe that down the stretch, Mac Jones is going to be the guy. And that's just my personal opinion. He looked very sharp, and once again, take it with a grain of salt. In that preseason game against the Washington football team, there are definitely things to improve upon, right? But I think overall, he showed, at least in his first initial playing time, what we needed to see. So I think the hype train for Mac Jones, baby, mac and cheese, right, is all the way there. So we'll go ahead and keep evaluating what's been going on here. After my selection of Damian Harris, we've seen Kyler Murray, Kyle Pitts, Trey Sermon, Russell Wilson, Deontay Johnson, Chase Edmonds, and T. Higgins off the board. So I still have 15 more selections until I pick, and I can tell you that Ronald Jones, the second, is absolutely my top target here. Hoping that he slides to me, we should see some quarterbacks and whatnot, tight ends continue to go along with these receivers and running backs. But at this point, we do need to kind of start to begin to evaluate where we want to target that of Ryan Tannehill. But I believe that if we can snag Ronald Jones the second here, we'll go ahead and check two teams drafting in between me both have Patrick Mahomes and that of Dak Prescott. So I don't believe that they will be selecting a Ryan Tannehill, although he would make a great number 2 quarterback on both of those rosters. So it's definitely still possible. So Ronald Jones will be our top target, and then we will start to target Ryan Tannehill because I do believe we will have to select him at that point. Although I can tell you that selecting Jerry Jeudy on top of a Ronald Jones, if they both last here, would make me very, very happy, especially if I can go out and get that of Ryan Tannehill a little bit later on. So we will just keep evaluating. I do want to go ahead and run through all the teams and see how many how many teams do have a quarterback. And let's just go and see. First 3 do. There's 1 without, 2 without. I'm also checking who's getting drafted to my right here. So it looks like we have quite a few teams. Yeah, we have more than half teams drafting without a quarterback, and now we see Justin Herbert off the board. So definitely, once again, feeling that sweat, trying to follow this strategy. And we will just see how this plays out as now Aaron Rodgers is off the board, and then that of a Kenny Galladay. So Ryan Tannehill, essentially your top quarterback overall, but as long as he lasts until this 82nd overall pick, I'm not going to select him because I do believe that he will slide to us at 87, as we now see Jerry Jeudy off the board. And like I said, Ronald Jones, the second, is definitely our top target here. Probably the only running back left that I feel truly 100% confident in, although there are some other names that I like a Melvin Gordon. I would probably take Leonard Fournette at this point. I do like Michael Carter here. I like James Conner and Gus Edwards for at least what value they present here. So we will see what happens these next 2 picks. I mean, this is what it is all about, right? Let's go ahead and see how they are looking, these 2 teams. Pretty good running backs here from Marcus, so I don't see him selecting one as he takes Deebo Samuel. And then I could definitely see, wow. Yeah, I was about to say, I could definitely see my boy Lewis coming out and taking a running back because he needs one, and he does take Ronald Jones, the second. So let's just stick to our plan, right? Let's go out and let's draft Leonard Fournette. I do like both of these backs. I personally still feel like Ronald Jones, the second, is going to be the better running back from a fantasy perspective, at least from a consistent basis throughout the regular season. But Leonard Fournette, what we saw him do in the playoffs last year, and the talent that we know that he has, he could certainly come out and be the number 1 running back there, and he could certainly be heavily, heavily utilized as well. So I probably will have to draft Ryan Tannehill here, right? We did not reach for Julio, and therefore we did not get him. And I think there are a lot of good players here that I would love to add to this roster, but overall we are sticking with their strategy, sticking with our guns, and we are picking Ryan Tannehill with this next selection as long as Robert and Havon do not want to add a quarterback for depth. So we will see what happens. And interestingly enough, Robert went out and picked up Trevor Lawrence as his backup quarterback, who if you have an elite quarterback on your fantasy roster, I think that Trevor Lawrence is a very sneaky value for someone who down the road this season could perform very well, like we saw Joe Burrow begin to perform last year, or maybe even how Justin Herbert came out and lit the league on fire. So I do actually like the selection of Trevor Lawrence, but we'll go ahead and get our guy, Ryan Tannehill, and we will stack him with that of Derrick Henry. Unfortunately, we did not get one of the receivers. Still very sad about it, but we'll see how the rest of this roster plays out. So at this point, we do want to just go ahead and start filling out our queue and seeing if there's anyone whatsoever. I mean, there definitely is a lot of players left with upside, but we want to make sure we are tagging all of those players and that we know what strategy we want moving forward. So Will Fuller is someone who I mean, I know that he got a little banged up, and definitely going to have, some injury concerns this year, as well as we know he's going to miss week one. But I really like his value and where you can select him. And, I presumably he will be the number one receiver in that Miami offense, but I definitely think that's a situation to continue to monitor. I'm recording this on Saturday, August 14th, and I watched Tua play today. I watched the Dolphins play today, and obviously all their receivers are injured, right? They don't really have their core receivers out there, and they probably won't until at least week two, right? And so Mike Gesicki was essentially the only player on the field who could catch footballs, is what it felt like. And Mike Gesicki and Tua looked to have a pretty good chemistry going on. And I thought that Tua play, I mean, you guys know that I've been on this Tua bandwagon, that I've been hyping him up. And I think he did play pretty well. But that interception that he threw to kind of tap or, cap off his day, it was pretty bad. Like, I got to admit, right? But I think if anything, the positive is the connection between Mike Gesicki and Tua is definitely there. And that's definitely something we want to monitor, if and when all these receivers come back. I do think that it's only going to open up things for Mike Gesicki. So let me know in the comments down below how you guys are personally kind of evaluating that Dolphins receiver room, how you guys are evaluating maybe not necessarily Tua, but Mike Gesicki and those receivers, and who you're kind of targeting, because you can definitely target Jalen Waddle kind of late in these drafts. And I mean, he's even projected to have over 1,000 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns on Yahoo. And I do think that he's probably worth that selection, knowing that he shouldn't be dealing with injuries or any suspensions the way that Will Fuller is. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys are thinking of that Miami Dolphins wide receiver room. And I can tell you that out of these guys who I've got queued, as much as I like Will Fuller, Michael Gallup, and Curtis Samuel, I just have one of those feelings about Mike Williams, right? Like, he's just a guy that I want on each and every one of my rosters. I do think he's going to have a very good year, but we still have 10 more selections until we draft. And these 14-man leagues, I mean, they really are tough, but I'm playing in a 20-man league this year, money league, 20-man league, and I've got to be prepared. You really, I wish I could do a 20-man mock draft. I probably need to look a little deeper into that. If you guys know of any sites of where you can do a 20-man mock draft, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to conduct some of those for you guys to watch. But I will be streaming my personal 20-man mock draft, and it will be from the Yahoo platform. So I'm super stoked. I mean, that'll be a couple weeks from now, but not too long, as NFL regular season's right around the corner, baby, right? So I will definitely be keeping you guys in the loop as that gets closer, and definitely probably be live streaming. I might be at the beach with my wife and mother-in-law that week. I might not be able to live stream. I just don't know what the internet's going to be like, but I will certainly be recording it and uploading it. So we now see Mike Gesicki go off the board, and I'm not going to lie, that was my guy who I wanted in this draft. So our tight end position, this is kind of a good moment, because there are a lot of late round tight ends who I'm starting to evaluate, and in a 14-man league and a 20-man league, if you don't go out and get a tight end before round 8 or round 7, you're probably going to be looking at a pretty thin tight end position overall. I like New England's tight ends. I like Evan Ingram from a full PPR standpoint, not even a half PPR standpoint. Definitely not in the standard scoring leagues. From a full PPR standpoint, I do like Evan Ingram this year. I will tell you that I really like Cole Kmet. Okay, only 243 receiving yards last year, 2 receiving touchdowns last year. A lot of competition between him and that of Jimmy Graham for targets. But I think that Cole Kmet's actually a good sleeper for this year. I like Blake Jarwin a lot. I like Gronk, and I like Gerald Everett. So I do think if you miss out on, I think Mike Gesicki's the cutoff essentially for anyone who has potential to be elite this year, maybe other than Hunter Henry, although we know he's dealing with some injuries. So I would still say don't panic if you fall out of that tier of where you see Mike Gesicki and everyone selected before him. So we have seen a lot of different things going on since I started rambling and talking there, but a lot of good players available here. I am going to go ahead and pick up Mike Williams because I want him on my team. And I will tell you guys that Nyheim Hines in 14-man leagues or higher, he is someone who should certainly be on your radar. Training camp is showing that this is someone who is going to be heavily involved, in the passing game. And whether it's Carson Wentz starting or not, since Carson Wentz has been taken out of the picture, Nyheim Hines has only been added further into the picture. I think that he is certainly going to benefit if Carson Wentz does not play. And I think if Carson Wentz does play, let's say week 1, he makes a speedy recovery, I do think that Nyheim Hines will be very valuable either way, right? And if you don't believe me in terms that Nyheim Hines can be of a great PPR value, then please go look at his stats from week 1 of last year. He had a fantastic week 1 last year, and I know that's such a small sample size. There are tons of players out there last year who had one really good game, right? But I do think that Nyheim Hines is certainly someone who needs to be targeted more heavy. And as I look at this roster, I'm actually happy with my 3 receivers, right? They're not the best in the world, but things are a lot thinner in 14-man leagues. And for myself personally, I am willing to sacrifice a little bit more at the receiver position because I think throughout the season more receivers become available on the waiver wire, and the running back position overall is just thin. In a 14-man league, you certainly want to go out and get 4 running backs who could potentially be number 1 running backs. Our queue consists of Will Fuller and Curtis Samuel, and that is it. So I will go ahead and check. I can still draft 3 more players, and I can definitely guarantee you that one of them is going to be a tight end. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave my face right here. Right? Not why not? Right? There's really nothing important that's going to be there. So obviously Will Fuller and Curtis Samuel are our top targets, but really here you've got, this is where you get nitty and gritty, right? I mean, I always talk about certain rounds making or breaking your fantasy team, and in a 14-man league, this is definitely where it gets nitty gritty and where you make or break your team. So I do want to, if you guys have any feedback, please let me know in the comments down below about Marquise Brown. As we do know that Rashad Bateman is going to be out until at least September, his stock kind of dropping, someone who I've talked about a lot. Let me know if you guys are willing to go out and target a Marquise Brown or not. Although Rashad Bateman, shouldn't be out too far into September. So let me know in the comments down below if you guys are starting to target him due to that injury or not. I'm also curious to go ahead and get your guys' thoughts on some of these rookie quarterbacks, and in any of these deeper leagues, if you guys are starting to target them or not. All right, so let's just go ahead and evaluate what we got going on here in the 10th round. We've got Irv Smith Jr. at the tight end position off the board, Brandon Cooks, Fitzpatrick, Will Fuller dropping to round 10 at pick 130. I think that's a great value for where he was drafted by Brady. Jason Sanders off the board. I do think Jason Sanders is going to have a very good year overall. Still a lot of, kind of interesting quarterbacks left. Justin Fields scoring his first NFL rushing touchdown today. I mean, once again, grain of salt, right? Preseason game. But I thought he looked pretty good out there. It will certainly be interesting to see how long Andy Dalton is the starting quarterback in that offense. And if I certainly think that Andy Dalton can come out and play well. But if he does not, those fans in Chicago are not going to sit around for a very long time and kind of wait for things to unfold, right? So I'm going to go ahead and check the tight end position. I think that Gronk presents the best overall value here. I think Gronk's going to have a good year. I mean, I don't think he's going to be exceptional by any means whatsoever, but I think he's good enough to draft considering that we have zero tight ends on this team, and we know that we're going to go out and get a second tight end. So I'm going to go ahead and evaluate things. I think that Jarvis Landry is probably the best value right here, although I do like JD McKissick as well. I'll probably go ahead and select JD McKissick because we need more running backs on this team. I mean, we do have one of the best running backs in the league, in my opinion, arguably the best running back in the league, and that of Derrick Henry. We have got Josh Jacobs, Damian Harris, and Leonard Fournette, as well as Naheem Hines, but you just cannot get enough running backs in these deeper leagues. And with this next selection, I'm going to hold off on the tight end position, I think. I think we can go out and get one or two guys a little bit later on that kind of present the same value as everyone who's available. Although I really do want to take Gronk here. I think that the drop off from receivers is going to be much more intense than the drop off from tight end that we see. So part of me wants to just go ahead and take Gronk. And actually, you know what? I'm reverting on my position. Give me crap in the comments down below. I'm taking Gronk because I do think that there's probably enough tight ends and receivers that really the value at both positions is equal. And this is just one of those moments where I've got a guy that I want on my roster. And let me know if you guys think I reach for Gronk when we've got Hunter Henry, Evan Ingram, Austin Hooper. I mean, we got, hey, at this point, I should be picking my dude, Anthony Ferks. How do you say this guy's last name? Ferkser. That is a hard last name for me to say. Also, give me crap for that in the comments down below. But hey, that might be interesting, considering that we're going for the Tennessee Titans super stack, which didn't really happen, but maybe that could be our redeeming value. I mean, certainly was seeing Jonnu Smith leave that team, someone who really ate up a lot of targets as well as red zone targets, someone who I think the Tennessee Titans should have potentially tried to hold on to, and is now part of the New England Patriots offense. Now that he is out of the Tennessee Titans, I do think that my boy Anthony here could, definitely benefit from that overall. And that's kind of my main problem with the New England Patriots tight ends, other than the fact that Hunter Henry is hurt, is that you've got Hunter Henry and you've got Jonnu Smith. I think both are going to have good years, but it's just kind of the question of, from a fantasy perspective, who is going to have a better overall year, or who is going to score more touchdowns, who is going to be more PPR relevant, who's going to be more standard scoring league relevant. So definitely a lot of questions there as well. So let's see who we've got available. I think Jalen Waddle was probably the best value available. This was a PPR scoring format, so I do think that Evan Ingram has relatively good value here, but I am kind of shooting for Jalen Waddle to go ahead and get one more receiver who could potentially be a number one receiver, as we're relatively thin at the receiver position, which I already know. But I believe that we will probably have to forfeit a kicker. If this was a draft I was doing in real life, a real time, real league draft, I would definitely forfeit a kicker and go out and get a second tight end and then kind of evaluate things until kickoff started and until I could decide when to drop one of these guys, right? I mean, the kicker, overall, in my personal opinion, there is not a huge trade-off in value. There are certainly better kickers than others in the league, right? But in terms from a drafting standpoint and who will be left on the waiver wire, even in some of these deeper leagues, I think it's okay to go ahead and lock up some skill position players and then revert back to it before you need to lock in your starting roster for Thursday through Sunday, right? As we do know that week one begins on a Thursday. So we will go ahead and keep evaluating things. Let's go ahead and see what's going on. So top of the 12th, or bottom of the 11th is probably a better place to start as we see Jared Cook off the board, someone who I think is super, super underrated, someone who you should have on your draft boards. And now Blake Jarwin and Evan Ingram, so three very good tight ends off the board, followed by that of Cole Beasley, who, if we know for sure he's a lock to play a full season this year, I think Cole Beasley is a tremendous value here in round 12, especially in deeper leagues. He is a PPR machine, man. And Josh Allen loves Cole Beasley. They have very good chemistry, very good connection, and I certainly think he is worth drafting. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that my boy Jalen Waddle just got taken off the board. A very, very sad day. Oh, I still have two more selections on my bench. So we will be targeting, as I do have Tua as my only player I am currently apparently going for here. Apparently the only player on my queue. I am going to go ahead and run down this receiver list. We see Devontae Parker, Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore looking like a pretty good value. I need to have this up here. All right, Damian Williams off the board. Can tell you that Nelson Aguilar is my top target here, simply based off the fact that he has the potential to be the number one receiver in that respective offense. But let's go ahead and lock up a second tight end. And as much as I like Cole Kmet, and I do believe he's going to have a pretty good fantasy year, Jimmy Graham kind of presents the next issue there. I think that they're both going to have good years, as we do see Cole Kmet taken off the board. I think they're both going to have very equal years is probably the best way to say that. And James White is someone who is pretty good value at this point in the draft from a PPR standpoint. So I'm going to go ahead, and I kind of like Eric Ebron here. How many touchdowns did Eric have last year? My guy Eric, 5 touchdowns. Jared Everett, only 1 touchdown. So I'm actually going to go out and get Eric Ebron as my second string tight end on this team. And then with that final selection, I'm going to go ahead and lock up Nelson Aguilar as long as he is not selected by anyone else. And truthfully, I don't know if I would need to forfeit a kicker. This is not my team. So we will be, let's just go ahead and see if Nelson Aguilar drops to us or not. What do you guys think about the Pittsburgh Steelers offense from a fantasy perspective overall? Like, I mean, outside of the receivers, well, I guess not outside the receivers, outside the running back position. How are you guys evaluating Ben Roethlisberger, and how are you evaluating those Steelers wide receivers, being that there are 3 very good receivers there who can all put up number 1 receiver yards? And then how are you evaluating Eric Ebron, who I just selected? Let me know in the comments down below. All right. Let's see if Nelson Aguilar falls to us. If he doesn't, then I would probably take a Sterling Shepard or a Jamison Crowder here. Marlon Mack, certainly someone who is kind of interesting. We know that Jonathan Taylor is kind of that 3-down back, the number 1 back there. We know that my guy Naheem Hines, is going to be the receiving back. But we also know that before Marlon Mack got hurt, we definitely saw him have a 1,000 plus rushing yard year. So anyways, let's go ahead and lock up Nelson Aguilar as the final skill position player selection for this team. And we will know with these last 2 picks that I would have secured a defense and or kicker. So let's crack down this team, baby. All right, so we were targeting the Tennessee Titans super stack. It did not happen. This was a 14-man league. We had the 3rd overall selection, so keep that in mind. It did not work out for us, but we were 2 selections away from securing Julio Jones. So it is possible from this standpoint that this strategy could play out, but it did not happen to us. Super bummer, but we will keep on keeping on. And let's see, we did get Ryan Tannehill at the quarterback position, someone who I think is going to have a fantastic year. I like where he's projected at, just over 4,400 passing yards and 33 passing touchdowns and 4 rushing touchdowns, right? We did see that he scored 7 rushing touchdowns last year. So I think that these numbers, with the addition of Julio Jones, and as long as everyone in that offense stays healthy, I think these are definitely doable. At the running back position, we did, with that 3rd overall selection, go out and get Derrick Henry, who we know is going to have a fantastic year. I don't like these projections. I think he'll be closer to 1,800 plus rushing yards, 15 rushing touchdowns. I'm fine with around 1 receiving touchdown and 101 receiving yards. I'm fine with as well. Although you never know when he's going to break out a big screenplay. We have seen it happen at points in the past, but if anything, we know that he's bringing, his A game in with those rushing yards and those rushing touchdowns. Big red zone guys. So I'm happy as anything to have Derrick Henry on this team. We also have Josh Jacobs at the running back position, Damian Harris, Leonard Fournette, Naheem Hines, and J.D. McKissick. So assuming that this is a full PPR league, Naheem Hines and J.D. McKissick present some great value. Leonard Fournette, Damian Harris, kind of a little bit more of a question mark, but definitely someone or two players could come out and be great number one running backs on their respective teams. And then I don't think there's any hesitancy for me personally around Josh Jacobs. I think he's going to have a great year. I like where he's projected 1,200 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns. I'm all for it. I think Josh Jacobs is a great number 2 running back and an amazing number 3 running back to have on your team. But remember, this is a 14-man league, so him being our RB2 is a very, it's much more feasible than him being an RB3. So at the receiver position, we have Keenan Allen, Adam Thielen, and then just Mike Williams and Nelson Aguilar. So a little bit thin at the receiver position. So let me know in the comments down below. This, presumably would be a full PPR league if you think this is enough to last throughout the season, because really we're looking at Keenan Allen and Adam Thielen, then we're hoping for Mike Williams to take off, and then Nelson Aguilar to at least present us as a player who can get around 10 points a week if all else fails. So at the tight end position, we came out, we got Gronk, we got Eric Ebron. So probably our thinnest position overall, and we know that tight ends don't really emerge on the waiver wire. We're lucky if one or two tight ends come out and surprise us, and we can go ahead and take a look at some of these other not flex players, but tight end players. And Zach Ertz is still available. Very interesting kind of fall from fantasy grace. Zach Ertz used to be presumably a top 5, top 3 tight end every year. We do have Dawson Knox, who I think is a candidate to break out this year just because he's on the Bills offense, right? And then Hayden Hurst, someone who's on the Atlanta Falcons, had a pretty good year last year, just under 600 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. And then Mo Alley Cox is probably the other name, although not the best numbers overall last year. Maybe a Jimmy Graham. Maybe an O.J. Howard if he can stay healthy, although that kind of hurts our selection of Gronk. So not much left at the tight end position overall. Maybe if Chris Herndon can come out fully healthy and Zach Wilson can turn it on, I don't know. I'm not very confident in the Jets. So let's see what defense fell to us. We were able to go out and get the Miami Dolphins, which I'm happy with. But I also like the New Orleans Saints here, and I like Chicago a lot. I think that Chicago presents a very good value. I mean, only 92 points last year, but I think that they at least present the upside in terms of forcing turnovers. So outside of that, I do like the Saints. I think that Minnesota did not perform pretty well last year, but they've got a pretty good schedule in terms of their defense versus offense. So other than that, yeah, we're kind of hoping that one of these teams can come out and perform very well next year, but nothing really past those couple of teams. Let's go ahead and see what kicker we end up with. I like a couple of these kickers. I'm not in love with any of them. Daniel Carlson, looks like he's dropped in the rankings due to COVID-19, but I believe that he will be fine by the time that the regular season starts. But just to be on the safe side, let's go ahead and take Michael Badgley of the Chargers, somewhere, a team who we know is going to put up a lot of points. So there you have it. 14-man league, full PPR. We did target the Tennessee Titans super stack. We did not get it. Let me know in the comments down below how you guys like this draft. I had fun. There's a lot of tension, a lot of times where I was sweating, and unfortunately, we're just 2 picks away from getting Julio Jones and getting that super stack. But that is what these mock drafts are for, to put yourself in a position that you're not necessarily used to try out some of these strategies, and see where they work and where they don't work. And if anything, today was very valuable research. So I hope that you guys found this mock draft helpful and or entertaining in some way. If you did, please go ahead and smash that like button, as it really truly does help out the channel. And go ahead and subscribe for more future content like this, as well as our annual The Catch podcast. My co-host Steven and myself do have some ranking videos that we are working on that will be coming out in the coming week as well. And please, like always, drop some comments down below on what you thought overall on this draft and what type of mock drafts you would like to see in the future that would help you in your personal fantasy football league. I thank you all very much for watching and or listening. I had a blast with this one. Remember, you guys, you saw it here on The Catch.